The cliffs of Big Sur loomed like ancient guardians behind the starlit cove, a glass-walled cathedral etched into California's untamed coast, where the Pacific's ceaseless roar intertwined with the hum of starlight and murmured ambitions. The wedding reception glowed under a twilight veil, chandeliers cascading amber rivers of light onto tables cloaked in midnight velvet, each centerpiece a symphony of orchids, gilded vines, and crystal prisms scattering rainbows. The air thrummed with sea salt and desire, a siren's call drawing San Francisco's elite, venture capitalists with wolfish grins, tech moguls draped in tailored armor, influencers trailing clouds of perfume and digital devotees. I, Valeria Navarro, stood at the edge of this gilded abyss, my heart a coiled spring beneath the sapphire silk of my gown, its fabric shimmering like a secret breaking free. 11 years ago, my family had written me out of their saga, but tonight, I was a stranger they never anticipated, a truth they couldn't silence. Diego, my partner, stood beside me, his calloused hand a warm anchor on my waist, tethering me against the flood of memories threatening to engulf me. His hazel eyes, sharpened by years as a war photojournalist, scanned the crowd with silent precision, missing no detail. "You're stronger than their shadows, am I amor?" he murmured, his voice a low rumble that steadied my quaking core. He'd held me through nights when betrayal's talons ripped at my soul, when I'd forged a new life from the wreckage of their rejection. Our daughter, Lila, 11 and brimming with restless wonder, tugged at her silver dress, its sequins glinting like a galaxy unbound. "Mom, this place is like a movie set. Can I grab one of those sparkly drinks?" Her eyes danced with awe, and I knelt, brushing a stray curl from her face, my smile a shield against the storm within. "Patience, M.I. Corazon. Be good, and we'll storm the dessert table soon, promise." She grinned, her gaze locking onto the towering cake across the terrace, its tiers a cascade of ivory and gold, glowing like a lighthouse in the dusk. I wasn't here for the cake or the opulence. I was here for her, my sister, Camila Reyes, the bride, a vision in ivory lace, her laughter a polished aria that wove through the cove, ensnaring her audience. She stood entwined with her groom, Sebastian Alvarez, a fintech titan whose invitation had summoned me here. He knew me as Valeria Navarro, founder of Verdura, a biotech empire revolutionizing sustainable agriculture with a $200 million valuation, its drought-resistant crops nourishing millions across continents. He had no idea I was Camila's sister, the one she and our parents had banished from their world. The invitation had been a professional nod, a tribute to Verdura's global impact, not a gesture toward a fractured past. I hadn't realized Camila was the bride until her name flashed on the RSVP portal, no longer Camila Navarro but Camila Reyes, a reinvention that sliced through me like a winter gale, sharp and relentless. 11 years ago, I'd been 20, standing in the fog outside our family's Palo Alto mansion, my backpack sodden with rain and despair, my mother's voice a venomous hiss. "You're no Navarro if you chase this foolish dream." I'd yearned to study bioinformatics, to mend the Earth's hunger through science, but they demanded I join their hedge fund dynasty, a realm of cold calculations and colder hearts. They'd severed me from their legacy, redirecting my trust fund, $3 million meant for my education, to Camila, their radiant star, sent to Harvard to study finance. Now, here she was, celebrated as a green tech visionary, her life a dazzling tapestry of lies I knew too well. A memory surged, raw and jagged, like a shard of glass. I was 16, hunched over my desk in our shared room, sketching genetic models for drought-resistant sorghum, my pencil racing as Camila lingered in the doorway, her emerald eyes glinting with a hunger darker than curiosity. "You think this will make you special?" she taunted, her voice laced with envy, a serpent's hiss. Months later, I'd found my laptop wiped, my prototypes vanished, and Camila presenting my designs at a national science fair, claiming them as hers. When I confronted her, her smirk was a dagger. "You're too soft, Valeria. This world devours dreamers like you." My parents had dismissed my accusations, labeling me paranoid, ungrateful. That night, they'd cast me out, my father's parting words a sear, "You're nothing without us." I'd stood in the fog, rain drenching my dreams, vowing to rise from their ashes. Another memory flickered, older but no less sharp. I was 12, at a family gala in our mansion's ballroom, my parents praising Camila's genius for a school project I'd crafted, their eyes gliding past me as if I were a ghost. Later, I'd confronted them, tears burning, and my mother had snapped, "Camila shines." You dim her light. The wound was a scar, etched deep, but I stood taller now, the woman I'd become a fortress against their shadows. As I sipped my sparkling cider, my hand steady despite the maelstrom inside, our eyes locked across the terrace. Camilla's smile froze, her champagne flute trembling, her eyes flashing with panic, a deer ensnared in a hunter's gaze. The string quartet's notes seemed to waver, the world contracting to the electric space between us. She hadn't seen me since that foggy night, hadn't reached out in 11 years. Her shock was a living pulse, her face a mask crumbling under my stare. I held her gaze, offering a small, deliberate nod, a silent gauntlet thrown. She didn't return it, pivoting to Sebastian, her laughter sharp and brittle, like ice fracturing under weight. Valeria, Diego whispered, his hand grazing mine, a lifeline in the tempest. You don't owe them this battle. I squeezed his fingers, my resolve hardening like steel forged in fire. I owe myself the truth. I'd built Verdura from a garage lab in Oakland, coding genetic algorithms between night shifts at a grocery store, clawing my way through Stanford's PhD program, summa cum laude. I'd married Diego, raised Lila, turned my vision into a reality that fed millions. This moment, standing in the starlit cove, was mine to claim. Lila tugged my sleeve, her voice a bright spark in the gathering dusk. Mom, that chocolate fountain is singing to me. I smiled, her innocence a tether to the present. Go conquer it, but stay where I can see you. She darted off, her dress a comet's arc through the crowd, and I braced myself, the air thick with the promise of a storm. My presence was a crack in Camilla's perfect facade, and I could feel the fault lines trembling beneath her lies. My mother's voice sliced through the quartet's melody, sharp as a guillotine. Valeria, what are you doing here? I turned to find her behind Camilla, her raven hair swept into a chignon, her eyes glinting with cold fury, a queen guarding her throne. My father flanked her, his tailored suit a bastion of authority, his face etched with disdain, the same look he'd worn when he'd exiled me. Their presence was a vice, dragging me back to that night in Palo Alto, their words a litany, you're nothing. I was invited, I said, my voice steady, though my heart thundered like the Pacific below. Sebastian asked me to attend as Verdura's founder. My mother's lips thinned to a razor's edge, and my father stepped forward, his voice a low growl, dripping with scorn. This is Camilla's wedding. You're here to destroy it, just like you always destroyed everything. Diego moved closer, his presence a quiet citadel. Valeria is a guest, he said, his tone calm but unyielding, a war photographer's precision in every syllable. Her work with Verdura is feeding millions across the globe. She belongs here more than anyone. His words sparked murmurs, heads turning like moths to a flame. A woman in a gold gown, her earrings catching the light, whispered to her companion, that's Valeria Navarro, the one who engineered those crops saving Asia's farmlands. The recognition was a flare, but it didn't dull the sting of my mother's glare or the way Camilla clung to Sebastian, her fingers white-knuckled, her lace gown quivering like a leaf in a gale. I turned to her, my voice soft but deliberate, a pebble dropped into a still pond. Congratulations, Camilla. It's a night to remember. The words rippled through the silence, a quiet detonation. Camilla flinched, her smile shattering, and Sebastian's brow furrowed, sensing a fault line beneath the celebration. Another memory surfaced, bitter and vivid. I was 19, scraping by in a dingy Oakland apartment, my hands raw from scrubbing dishes, my nights spent coding Verdura's first algorithms. I'd seen Camilla on a news segment, hailed as a green tech prodigy for my stolen designs, my parents beaming beside her. I'd called home, desperate for justice, but my father had hung up, his voice cold. Stop living in the past, Valeria. Camilla's the future. The betrayal had fueled me, each line of code a defiance, each seed a rebellion. Is that lady your sister? Lila's voice pierced the tension, her chocolate-smeared grin innocent but lethal. Did she go to that fancy school you told me about? The question was a spark in a powder keg, and Camilla's face drained of color. Yes, Harvard, she stammered, her voice a fragile thread, fraying under scrutiny. It's complicated. The lie cracked, and Sebastian's eyes narrowed, doubt blooming like a shadow across his chiseled face. I didn't need to speak. The truth was unraveling, its threads pulling loose. Camilla hadn't graduated from Harvard. I'd learned years ago, through a whistleblower at her firm, that she'd flunked out after a semester, using our parents' wealth to forge credentials. Worse, she'd stolen my crop designs, patenting them under her name to build her green tech empire, a theft that had netted her $12 million. My parents had known, their hedge fund laundering her profits, burying my contributions to prop up her myth. Sebastian stepped forward, his voice cautious but probing, a man sensing a storm on the horizon. Valeria, I didn't know you were Camila's sister. She told me her sister was. He trailed off, his eyes searching Camila's face for truth. She laughed, too loud, too sharp, a glass teetering on the brink. Families are chaotic, Sebastian. You know how it goes. But her words were hollow, and the crowd sensed it, their whispers swelling like the tide below. The memories kept coming, relentless. I was 18, at a family dinner, my parents toasting Camila's early admission to Harvard, my own acceptance to Stanford ignored. I'd spoken up, my voice trembling, and my mother had snapped, "Don't make this about you, Valeria. Camila's our pride." The dismissal had been a wound, but it had also been a spark, igniting my resolve to prove them wrong, to build something they couldn't touch. Then came the twist that shattered the night like a lightning bolt. A man in a navy suit pushed through the crowd, his face haunted yet resolute. "Valeria." His voice trembled, and my breath caught. It was Nico, my cousin, who'd vanished after a bitter rift with my parents over their corrupt dealings. He'd been my lab partner in high school, the only one who'd believed in my vision, until he'd fled their control, haunted by their greed. "I couldn't stay silent," he said, his eyes blazing with years of suppressed fury. "Camila didn't just lie about Harvard. She stole your crop patents, sold them to Agrotech for $12 million, and claimed she invented them. I have proof." He held up a USB drive, its sleek surface catching the chandelier's glow, a Pandora's box in his trembling hand. The terrace froze, the quartet's bows stilled, the Pacific's roar the only sound, a primal chorus to the unfolding drama. Guests turned, phones rising like a constellation of eyes, capturing the moment. Camila's face drained of color, her gown snagging on a chair as she stumbled back, a porcelain figure cracking under pressure. "That's a lie," she cried, but her voice was a desperate wail, unraveling before the crowd. Sebastian's jaw clenched, his eyes darting to me, a man caught in a collapsing dream. "Valeria, is this true?" I held his gaze, my voice steady as granite, forged in years of solitude and struggle. "I designed those crops at 15. Camila stole my notes, my prototypes, my soul. I built Verdura from nothing, while she built her empire on my blood." The words were a thunderclap, reverberating through the cove, and the crowd gasped, phones flashing like lightning in a storm. Nico stepped forward, his voice rising, a prophet unveiling truth. "I was there, in the lab with Valeria. I saw her create those designs. Camila sold them to fund her lies, and your parents laundered the money through their fund." A memory flashed, Nico and I at 16, hunched over a microscope, laughing as we tweaked a sorghum gene, dreaming of feeding the world. He'd been my ally, my confidant, until my parents' threats drove him away, their corruption too heavy for his gentle heart. His return now was a gift, a validation of my truth. My mother lunged forward, her voice a shriek that pierced the night like a banshee's cry. "Enough. You're destroying everything." She surged toward me, her hand raised, nails glinting like talons, aiming for my face in a blind fury. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath, but Diego caught her wrist midair, his voice low and lethal, a war zone's calm honed in battlefields. "Don't you dare touch her." The moment was electric, cameras clicking, influencers live streaming, #Starlet scandal igniting social media like a supernova. My mother recoiled, her composure shattered, her chignon unraveling like her authority, and my father roared, "Valeria, leave. You're ruining Camila's wedding." His words echoed that night in Palo Alto, but I was no longer the girl they'd broken. I stepped forward, my voice ringing clear, a beacon piercing the chaos. "I was invited, and I'm not leaving until the truth is free. Verdura is mine, my work, my heart, my legacy. You can't erase me anymore." The terrace erupted, a tidal wave of murmurs, as guests whispered, "Valeria Navarro. Verdura stole patents." A woman in a teal dress, a tech journalist clutching a recorder, pushed forward, her voice urgent. Ms. Navarro, your crops are a global miracle. Did Camila really steal them? I nodded, my jaw steady, my heart as unyielding as the cliffs behind me. Every seed, every algorithm, every line of code was mine. She stole them all, but I rebuilt it stronger. Camila's facade crumbled like a sandcastle under the tide. She turned to Sebastian, her voice breaking, a plea in a collapsing cathedral. I did it for us, Sebastian. I had to be someone. But he pulled away, his face a mask of betrayal, his voice barely audible over the ocean's roar, yet cutting like a blade. You lied about everything, even the baby. The crowd gasped, a seismic shockwave rippling through the air. I froze, the revelation a tidal wave crashing over me. Camila had faked a pregnancy to bind Sebastian, a secret she'd hidden even from me, a final betrayal that stripped her bare before the world. A memory surged, vivid and damning. Camila at 18, slipping a pregnancy test into the trash, her eyes darting to ensure I hadn't seen. I'd thought it was a mistake, a moment of panic, but now the pieces snapped into place. She'd wielded it as a weapon, a lie to secure her future. My parents had known, their silence a complicity that burned like acid in my veins. The truth was a maelstrom, consuming her world. Phones recorded every second, the video spreading like a virus, #Starlet scandal trending globally within minutes, amassing millions of views. My parents tried to salvage their dignity, my mother's voice shrill, a desperate cry in the wind. Camila's the victim here. You're twisting everything. But the guests weren't listening. They were watching me, Verdura's founder, the woman who'd risen from their ashes, her truth a light no one could dim. Then came the second twist, a blade I hadn't seen coming, sharper than the first. Nico's voice dropped, his eyes locked on mine, heavy with a truth yet unveiled. There's more, Valeria. Sebastian's not clean either. His company, Finnova, buried a data breach that exposed 20 million users' personal data. Bank accounts, identities, all compromised. The proof's on this drive, too. Sebastian's face blanched, his polished veneer cracking like glass under a hammer, as the crowd turned to him, phones still rolling, a jury of eyes. That's slander, he snapped, but his voice wavered, a man drowning in his own secrets, and I saw the truth in his eyes, a titan who'd built an empire on lies, now facing his own reckoning. A woman in a crimson gown, a venture capitalist with a steely gaze, stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos like a scythe. I invested $50 million in Finnova. If this is true, Alvarez, you're finished, and I'll make sure every boardroom knows it. The crowd buzzed, influencers typing furiously, the hashtag exploding across platforms, #Starlet scandal a global firestorm. I stood still, the Pacific's roar a chorus to my rising heart, a symphony of justice. I hadn't come to destroy Sebastian, but his lies were collateral damage in the truth's relentless path. A third twist landed, smaller but no less piercing. A woman in a silver dress, her face vaguely familiar, pushed through the crowd, her voice trembling with urgency. Valeria, it's me, Elena. My breath caught. Elena, our childhood friend, who'd been at Harvard with Camila, had drifted away after college. I was her roommate, she said, her eyes wide with guilt. I saw her forge the degree, saw her bribe an admin to fake her transcript. I stayed quiet because your parents paid my tuition, but I can't anymore. The crowd gasped again, phones capturing every word, the layers of Camila's deception peeling back like an onion, each revelation more damning than the last. Camila's eyes met mine, raw and pleading, a sister I'd once loved now a stranger laid bare. Valeria, please, she whispered, her voice breaking, a fragile thread in the storm. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted to be enough. For a moment, I saw the girl who'd shared my secrets, who'd braided my hair under starlit summers, before envy turned her heart to stone. But the wounds were too deep, the theft too vast. My work, my dreams, my trust, all plundered. I shook my head, my voice soft but final, a door closing forever. You chose your path, Camila. Now walk it. A memory flickered, softer this time, Camila at 10, crying when I fell from a tree, bandaging my knee with clumsy hands, her eyes wide with worry. The sister I'd lost was in there, somewhere, but the woman before me had buried her under lies. My heart ached, but my resolve held, a lighthouse against the storm. The crowd was a living entity now, buzzing with shock and fascination, phones a constellation of lenses, capturing the unraveling of a dynasty. A young influencer in an emerald dress, her followers in the millions, stepped forward, her voice awed. "Ms. Navarro, you're Verdura's founder? Your crops saved my village in Kenya. Is this all true?" I nodded, my voice steady, a quiet power. "Every word. I built Verdura to feed the world, not to feed lies." My father tried to intervene, his voice a bellow, a king losing his crown. "This is nonsense. Valeria's always been a troublemaker." But the crowd ignored him, their eyes on me, on Nico, on Elena, the truth a tidal wave no one could stop. My mother's face crumpled, her hands trembling, a queen dethroned. Sebastian stood frozen, his empire teetering, his eyes darting to the exits as if he could outrun his fate. Then came the climax, a spectacle that would echo across the globe. The massive screen behind the stage, meant for wedding slideshows, flickered to life, hijacked by an unseen hand. Nico's, I realized later, his tech skills honed in exile. Documents flashed across it. My original crop patents, time-stamped at 15, Agrotech's purchase agreement with Camilla's signature, Harvard's forged transcript, Finnova's internal memos burying the data breach. The crowd gasped, a collective roar, as the truth blazed in stark black and white, undeniable. Camilla's gown caught on a table as she stumbled, her veil slipping, a fallen angel in the glow of truth. Sebastian's face was ashen, his hands clenched, a man watching his kingdom burn. The quartet stopped, the silence deafening, broken only by the ocean's primal roar and the click of cameras. Influencers live-streamed, their followers surging, #Starlet Scandal trending worldwide, 100 million views and climbing. A tech mogul in a charcoal suit, his voice booming, demanded, "Alvarez, explain this." Sebastian stammered, his charm dissolved, a man exposed. Camilla's voice was a broken sob, "I didn't mean it." But it was too late, her lies a pyre consuming her world. I could have stayed, could have reveled in their downfall, but I didn't need to. The truth was a wildfire, and I was its spark, my light blazing brighter than their shadows. As the crowd surged, demanding answers, I turned to Diego, his eyes warm with pride, a warrior's respect forged in battle. "Let's go," I said, my voice steady, a lighthouse in the storm. He nodded, taking Lila's hand, her chocolate-smeared grin a beacon of joy. "Mom, are we famous now?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. I laughed, the sound light and free, a melody born of liberation. "Maybe, M.I. Corazon. Let's dance first." We moved to the dance floor, Lila spinning between us, her laughter a bright counterpoint to the ocean's roar. The lanterns cast shadows across her face, a constellation of hope, and for a moment, the world was ours, my family, my truth, my victory. We left the starlit cove under a sky ablaze with stars, the chaos of the crowd fading like a distant storm. My parents' glaze, Camilla's collapse, Sebastian's unraveling, it all dissolved as we walked to our car, the Pacific stretching infinite before us, a canvas for my unbound future. I'd faced my past, not to torch it, but to reclaim my light, a beacon no one could extinguish. The fallout was seismic, a global reckoning that reshaped lives and legacies. The viral video of Nico's revelation, my mother's knee assault, Elena's confession, and the screen-stamming documents dominated social media, #Starlet Scandal amassing 200 million views in 24 hours, a cultural phenomenon dissected on every platform. News outlets swarmed, confirming Camilla's theft of my patents, sold to Agrotech for $12 million, her Harvard credentials a fabrication woven with our parents' wealth. Sebastian's annulment filing made front-page news, his company's data breach sparking class action lawsuits that obliterated Finnova's market value, his stock plummeting 80% in days. My parents' hedge fund imploded under federal investigation, their role in laundering Camilla's profits exposed, their Palo Alto mansion seized, their dynasty reduced to headlines and shame. 4 months later, Camilla sent me a letter, tie-stained and jagged, her handwriting a ghost of the sister I'd known. She confessed to stealing my patents, driven by envy and a desperate need to eclipse me, the sister she'd always seen as perfect. She admitted to the faked pregnancy, a desperate ploy to trap Sebastian, and to our parents' complicity, their money silencing doubters, their ambition blinding them to her unraveling. She begged for forgiveness, for a chance to be sisters again, to rebuild on honest ground. I read it under the San Francisco moonlight, Lila asleep beside me, Diego's camera lens glinting nearby, his latest film a testament to human resilience. The words stirred memories, Camila at 8, sharing her ice cream when mine fell, her laughter bright as summer, but the scars were too deep, the trust too shattered. I folded the letter, tucking it into a drawer, not ready to forgive, perhaps never ready. My peace was hard-won, a garden I'd tended alone, and I wouldn't risk it for her redemption. Yet the letter lingered, a whisper of what might have been, a ghost of the sister I'd loved. I found myself revisiting memories, Camila at 14, sneaking me cookies during a grounding, her eyes sparkling with mischief. The girl was gone, buried under lies, but her echo haunted me, a reminder of the family I'd lost, and the one I'd built. One evening, as I stood on our rooftop, the city skyline pulsing below like a living heart, Lila sketching constellations, Diego editing a film on refugee hope, I felt my past's weight lift, a kite cut free to soar. Verdura was thriving, its crops feeding millions, its mission a testament to my soul. My family, Diego's quiet strength, Lila's boundless light, was my sanctuary, my truth, my power. 7 months later, at a biotech summit in Seattle, I stood at Verdura's booth, discussing our latest millet hybrid with global leaders, its yield doubling harvests in arid regions. Across the hall, I saw Camila, clutching a job application, her eyes weary but kindled with resolve. She wore no makeup, her hair pulled back, a woman stripped bare but standing tall, her shoulders squared against the world. Our gazes met, and I saw not defeat, but a spark of rebirth, a woman starting over as I had, her first steps tentative but her own. I offered a nod, not reconciliation, but recognition of her fight, a silent acknowledgement of her courage to begin again. She returned it, her lips trembling into a faint smile, a vow to keep climbing, to forge her own path. I turned away, my heart steady as the cliffs of Big Sur, a rock unyielding yet shaped by the sea. Some doors close not from anger, but because they lead nowhere you need to go. As I walked back to Diego and Lila, the city's pulse syncing with mine, I knew I was where I belonged. My past had forged me, a blade tempered in fire, but it didn't own me. My future was mine to shape, a tapestry of light and possibility, woven from my truth, my resilience, my love. The lesson was radiant, etched in my bones, a truth as enduring as the Pacific's tides. My worth was never tied to those who rejected me. It was in the seeds I sowed, the lives I nourished, the family I cherished, the legacy I claimed. I was Valeria Navarro, and I was free, free to shine, to soar, to be enough, a light that would never fade.